a decade in his spheres of business transformation, process engineering, program and project management. He is the Chief Executive Officer of ISB Optimus. He has been pivotal in spearheading initiatives in digital transformation, performance improvement, and transformational innovation. His expertise further extends to business analysis, process strategy and alignment, and software development life cycles, with a particular emphasis on agile practices. Munya's leadership has consistently driven ISB Optimus to deliver tailored solutions aimed at enhancing productivity, reducing operational costs, and maximizing profit margins. And today he's going to also engage us and perhaps maybe teach us also how to optimize those processes within our business, or share his expertise on how we can also reduce operational expenses and maximize profit margins for our businesses. Mr. Husvu, over to you.
Thank you, Kopano, and thank you all for taking time to join me on this conversation, which is titled The Power of Automated Invoice Processing. So we are going to talk about the kind of benefits that you can get from invoice processing. We're going to talk about the journeys that you need to walk through invoice processing. So without doing any much further introductions, let me get straight into it. All right. So automation is becoming one of the major talking points within business at this point. And the first slide that I've got here talks to what is happening across the world and across different industries with regarding to automation of processes. So you will see there the fortune is saying the future of finance will include generative AI, which is artificial intelligence, which is from MIT researchers. Generative AI makes headway in healthcare. Generative AI in fashion market to expand 36.9%. Generative AI could raise global GDP by 7%. And we are expecting that 950 million new jobs be created as a result of artificial intelligence and automation, while another 800 or so of existing jobs automated. But that's a very controversial statistic when it says 800 million jobs be automated by AI. And I will touch on that towards the end of my presentation. I just discussed that a little, as that also is one of the biggest contentious points within automation and some of the apprehension that we see from clients around getting their processes automated. Now, the topic of this webinar is around accounts payables, right? So if we take a zoom in into accounts payables and what is happening across the world within accounts payables, you can see here that the global accounts payable automation market size is projected to grow from US dollars. Do you see my screen? I think I don't see the screen on my side. I just want to be sure you see it, Kopano.
Yes, I see it. I can see it from my side.
Thank you. But thank you.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So you can see here that the global accounts payable automation market size is projected to grow from about $1 billion to about $3 billion in 2029 at a growth rate of about 7.7%. If you are yet to adopt accounts payable automation, here are the 18 reasons why you're missing out. So these are all articles that are in the news that are happening as the world is going around. Accounts payable automation is the secret weapon to fight against inflation. And there are 3 trends driving accounts payable automation. Here we're talking greater efficiencies, we are talking managing cash flow, and the desire to reduce risk as some of the major drivers that are driving automation of accounts payables processes. I put in here a note that says a fully automated, no-touch accounts payable process can significantly lessen the incidences of human error around the many business transactions flowing to and from any given day within your accounts and procure to pay processes. Right? Here are some of the pain points that we have been encountering in the market as we talk to various clients and as we have been implementing some of these automation solutions around accounts payables and invoice processing. And this is the pain that accounts payable clerks, accounts payable officers, accounts payable management, as well as approvers do go through on a day-to-day basis. So if you just look at that word cloud that I stuck right in the middle, you can see some of the words there: nightmare, difficult, frustrated, suffer, prone to error, concerns around entering. It is quite consuming. You can see the kind of frustration and negative sentiment that is generally encompassing people that deal with large volumes of invoices on a daily basis and people that process invoices around accounts payables. Some of the statements coming out of that: lost invoices are a nightmare. They go missing in a pile of paper, you can't find them. Compliance and audits are a major concern. Keeping track of that. Manual entering invoice data is time consuming and error prone. Vendor relationships suffer because of payment delays, and this is quite key within the insurance industry. As the industry is one industry that is heavily related between the partners downstream to the insurer and upstream to the client. And those relationships are quite key to the functioning of the industry, and those need to be maintained. Accounts payables is one of those that you need to have working neatly for you to be able to manage those relationships. Our invoice approval process involves multiple departments. We've experienced instances of invoices and it is difficult to detect that fraud. So those are some of the pains that we have encountered along the journey with some of our clients where we've implemented these automation solutions. And I do reckon some of you here might actually associate with some of these pains. And behold, it's not all doom and gloom. The solution is out. AI has been on the journey. It has matured over years, and it is now able to help us solve those solutions. Now, if I zoom into insurance companies and across these, some of the major topics that are impacted either directly or indirectly by manual invoice processing and accounts payable approvals. So insurance has a quite complex regulatory compliance environment. Here, the insurers are subject to strict regulatory requirements. AP processes must adhere to these regulations, and ensuring compliance with various insurance laws, reporting requirements, auditing standards can be a challenge, which we can easily solve using automation. The volume and variety of transactions, there are quite a number of documents that come through that relate to accounts payable, starting from the contracts themselves, the premium payments, the claims processing, the vendor payments, and all of those are payments that are coming with various quantums and various sizes that need to be managed quite clearly and quite easily and quite seamlessly. Audit requirements, data security, manual processing. I spoke a bit about vendor management, and also integration with legacy system. You do find that at certain times, accounts payable people have to zoom in between various screens coming from one application into the other, copy data from another application into the other, copy from PDF, copy from email, post into one system or the other. And that creates quite a lot of frustration, as we saw earlier on in that word cloud and some of the pains that I showed you that are coming from some of the clients. Now, how do we deal with this? Dealing with all of these pains, the solution that we have seen and that we've been putting to the market is around what we call the digital workforce. Now, the digital workforce is a combination of knowledge workers, which are in this case typical people that capture invoices, people that approve the invoices. And with those, we then create a digital assistant, which in certain instances we call digital workforce, certain instances we call the co-pilot, who assists the knowledge worker to then conduct the specific task that you are doing with the systems that you are working with. Then ultimately we have 80 to 90% of our processes automated, and then bringing exponential efficiencies and exponential gains in terms of time and cost savings to the organizations that have adopted automation. Now, how does the digital workforce work? It acts like a person. So in this case, when we're talking accounts payables, as you will see in some of my slides further on, you will have the digital assistant or the co-assistant coming in to perform some of the tasks which would have been performed by the human being. They will do the analysis that would have been done by the human being and then make decisions based on a set of rules. And where there are exceptions, it then sends those to the human beings to then work with and bring out the efficiencies that we are talking around here. So how the automation journey works is that we need to put in generative AI and various automation technologies that we then apply to automate the accounts payables processes. So we need to accelerate the impact using an open architecture, which is trusted and has been in use for years and years. How that works is normally we come in and discover the processes that you go through, the process that you do around accounts payables. Then we automate that and we scale through other financial processes to ensure that you then have an end-to-end functioning system that is able to handle all your invoices, able to handle your suppliers, as well as all the processes and tasks that you would want to do in your journey. Within accounts payables, here's the context. One of the automation technologies that is out there that we normally use is robotic process automation. And a typical accounts payable process goes as follows. You would have an employee that opens an email, downloads an invoice, extracts data, takes that data, populates it into a particular system. What we are now doing is we have taken all of these tasks, as these tasks don't necessarily add much value. We've taken those and we are giving those to now the bots, which then perform those tasks together with the human being, with the human being now responsible for doing more detailed analysis, for doing more detailed strategic tasks, rather than retrieving emails, downloading attachments, extracting the data, and creating the bills. So I did say in one of my previous slides that the digital assistant, the co-pilot, acts like a person, thinks like a person, and analyzes like a person. In this case, in the traditional ERP process, this is what the human being would have done: opening, downloading, extracting, and creating the payment bills. In this case now, when we automate, we get the bots to then do exactly the same task, albeit with greater efficiencies, albeit with greater accuracy, and albeit with better and more accurate compliance, as well as cost savings. So effective invoice processing with generative AI, this has seen a 40% hype automation slashes in costs across the world. How that normally works, you would have an analyst that uses automation to kick off invoice processing. This could be from Excel, this could be from email. And then the co-pilot is responsible for extracting all the invoice data within the documents that you are working with. So it could be the language, it could be the format, classification of the documents that come through. We extract payment information and we extract the vendor data. All of this is being done by the digital assistant that works with the accounts payable analyst. And then from there, we take robotic process automation, which then goes and assesses your systems of records, whether be it SAP, be it Workday, Salesforce from a CRM perspective, or some other industry-specific system where we then do document automation. So from the information that we get from the invoice data, RPA extracts the data, loads it into your system, so it actually logs into the system, populates the information, and then generates artificial intelligence, reads the information that is coming from all those documents, synthesizes into context, and then leads into the next journey, the next processes. Here, what the benefit comes out of this, we are able to detect fraud, we're able to do invoice matching to POs, we're able to do invoice validation, we're able to validate and route it for approvals, as well as initiate payment processing. So you can see all of these tasks, all of these tasks that are in the middle would have been the typical tasks that somebody has to sit in for hours and hours to do. Fraud detection is not quite easy. Invoice matching at certain times is not quite easy as well. And all of this, we now use artificial intelligence, intelligent automation, and robotic process automation to get that done quite easily and quite efficiently and seamlessly, as well as then kick off the payment process. And the vendor is happy because they then receive their payments quite early. Payment is validated, the remittances are all sent quite early, and the relationship between the vendor and the client in this case is easier to manage and is never strained, as this process is quite seamless. Here's a typical another example that just explains what I was talking to here. You then have a vendor where you send the invoices to. From the invoices that are sent, normally you typically receive those invoices in an email box. We now bring RPA instead of human being to go into that mailbox, download the invoice. Cognitive intelligence comes into play. We then extract all the information out of the invoices or the documents that are coming from the mailbox. Further down here, if there are any exceptions, then take those exceptions and route them to a human being. If the bot encounters something that it does not know what to do with, where it knows what to do with, it extracts the information, log into the system of record, enter invoice details, match with purchase order or goods receipt. If items are unmatched, we send it to a human being to say, hey, the bot doesn't know what to do here, please assist. Then where we have managed to do 3-way, 4-way, or 5-way match, depending on your business rules, we then send the successful match email, approve the invoice, and then receive the payment, process the payment. Now, this brings quite a number of benefits from a receipt perspective: seamless receipt, seamless capture, invoice matching. Fraud detection is quite easy because you are getting a system that detects patterns that would not normally be easy to detect to the human eye, bringing bots that can detect those and assist with fraud detection, invoice review and approval, payments, remittances, reconciliation, archiving, audit, searching, compliance. All of those are some of the tasks within accounts payable that you could do automatically and saving countless and countless hours in invoice processing. I've got a small video here that I will just play for you before I proceed, that talks to accounts payable automation, end-to-end process automation. So normally accounts payable is one of the most labor-intensive processes in finance. And without automation, the process typically involves manually inputting data from vendor invoices into the accounts payable system. Using intelligent automation typically generates more than 50 to 70% time savings. And you will see I've got a case study further on one of our clients that actually saved 80% in terms of time for invoice processing. Cost to process invoice, some of the KPIs, invoice processing for full-time employee, percentage of supplier discounts taken due to early invoice processing. These are the typical participants to an accounts payable process. So you would have a supplier, in this case, Natalia, who sends the invoices. You have an accounts payable clerk, accounts payable officer, validates the invoices, captures the invoices into systems of records, then goes for approval. Here, you've got an example where Natalia, the supplier, is actually sending an invoice to the mailbox where they need to send the invoice. So this is Natalia doing it from their vendor's office, sending the email box. Invoice is attached, and then it's sent through. Now, the invoice has been sent through. It's now in the mailbox. From this point onwards, it's now the bot that is taking over. Normally, this would have been done by human beings. It's now the automation that takes over. All of these tasks are now being done by the intelligent automation bot using cognitive intelligence. Creates the invoice. Generation, artificial intelligence gets the information. Invoice is captured and submitted. Invoice validation, we are now doing a comparison of the invoice with the information captured. You can see there artificial intelligence has detected an error between that line there, oxygen tubing 2.4 versus 24. The invoice has been sent for approval to the approver. Now the approver in this case is manual approval. Generate AI has again detected incorrect line item details that were sent through by the vendor, and then they get corrected at this point. Invoice has been approved. Now, if approved in API or UI, then creates the invoice automatically in SAP. You can see how fast the demo of the bot is creating the invoice and populating the information, because all of this information is being done automatically by the co-pilot of the digital worker. Now, those are some of those demos, some of the dashboard of some of the invoices that have been processed, what has been processed within the year, the savings that they did get from deploying these bots. So here you've got the finance leader, this could be the CFO, the CEO, that are looking at what benefits they are getting from the automation that they've done. So you do get quite a number of very good dashboards that relates to the benefits and the outcomes that you're getting out of the automation. All right. So here is a similar situation, which is sort of like a case study for a local client where we implemented some of these automations. The challenge that they were having is that invoice processing is labor intensive. Invoice manual extraction of vendor invoice data into systems like SAP. It costs the business between 100 rands to 300 rands per invoice and can take up to 90 days to complete invoice processing. Manual data input leads to payment delays due to data entry errors. Additionally, inconsistent invoice formats pose challenges for automation in document processing. The automated solution that we built for them, intelligent automation and generative AI, enhance efficiencies and save times. We enable the end-to-end invoice processing with Gen AI, flagging discrepancies between invoices and ERP. EP staff can swiftly verify and advance the workflow within the app. And ERP data entry is automated. Gen AI generates personalized emails to vendors, and additionally, automation updates the finance dashboard to track savings and return on investment impact for finance leaders. So we're able to streamline invoice processing, 33% average cost savings, 30% supplier discounts captured. In the first month of implementation, we captured 1,365 invoices, 1,252 emails were processed, 183 million rands in value was processed across all those invoices. 229 documents, 2,029 documents were processed, and 235 suppliers processed. Now, just looking at the volume of transactions that would have been handled by human beings that have been freed from the human beings, you can clearly see that we have brought about a lot of satisfaction to those people that work with those invoices. 1,300, 1,200, 2,029 documents. This was all being processed by a team of 4 accounts payables administrators. So you can imagine the level of frustration that this team had, the level of dissatisfaction that this team had. And now all this team is doing is now work around the reconciliation, vendor relationship, and making sure that the other financial processes that they need to work with are all working seamlessly and efficiently. With that, major benefits: 85% straight through processing, 80% improvement in turnaround time, and the biggest one of them, 1.5 million fraudulent invoices were detected by the Gen AI, by the co-pilot, and the automation system that was implemented. In all the occurrences that they have processed invoices within this client, they have never realized that they do have potentially fraudulent invoices that are coming through and are getting processed and are getting paid through all those 1,300 that they process a month. So these are some of the benefits that you're looking at. And clearly it shows that there is power in invoice process automation across various industries. And in this case, for yourselves within the insurance industry, these are some of the major things that you can look at as well. Then automation within insurance, again, bringing back to the major challenges that I started off: increased efficiency, reduced data errors, faster approval workflows, improved invoice matching, compliance and audit, reduced risk and fraud, data security. These are benefits that are quite key for the insurance industry, given the nature of the industry, the nature of risks that you deal with on a daily basis, the clients that you deal with on a daily basis, as well as the partner network that supports the insurance industry, and the benefits that you could get simply from automating a simple process such as invoice processing. Now, there are general myths and realities that relate to automation of processes. And the biggest one that I decided to address here is that automation is coming to take jobs away. And when I started, I spoke about the 950 million jobs. This is the 800 million jobs that will probably be automated. And one of the greatest myths here is automation will take our jobs. And yes, for those ones that are not sort of embracing automation, definitely it's not automation that will take the jobs, but probably someone that is making effective use of automation will take the jobs of those that resist the journey that is coming, because the business benefits are quite immense, as you have seen. The benefits are coming, and at this rate, the industries, as well as the automation industry itself, is getting very aggressive in selling and marketing the automation benefits to key executives. And the future of the job market will be defined by those that have embraced automation and are working with that automation to automate their processes. I will stop at this point here for any questions and discussions, which I will open the floor. Kupana.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And thank you for giving us all that information and sharing the expertise and the information that we need to know about automation. And I was curious to get to the end of these presentations and I was hearing you talking about how the automation and how we could deal with those pain points. And I was thinking, what does that mean? Does it mean now this RPA, it's going to take over our jobs? But now you've got to the end to say, no, it's not going to do that. But someone who is effectively using the system will be able to do that. And I'm going to put one of my colleagues on the spot on this one. I saw him on the line, some of the participants that have joined us today. He's in finance. He works quite a lot with invoicing and processing and doing quite a lot of those things. And I usually happen to hear him complains about how it takes forever to do all these processes and having to work from one system to another system. I think by now he knows where I'm talking to. I think he's prepared, because I'm going to put him on a spot to weigh in on these conversations and get his input on what he has learned today. Zwi, I think you know that I'm putting you on a spot here. I'm referring to you because I always hear you talking about systems, and he's one of our finance individuals that works with most of our accounts. So I'm just gonna ask him get him to weigh in and tell us what does he think of this discussion and how does it see it assisting him, if any, if he thinks this is a solution that he needs for his processes. Zui, are you on the line? I'm gonna ask to unmute and see if I can unmute him. Allowed to talk.
I ask Kopan, thank you. I'll talk using learning my waves.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, you are right. It's something that we already started with, especially with regards to manual invoicing, like everything Mr. Husvu said. It's something that we've really experienced, especially with manual invoicing, things like errors, manual errors, and delays in terms of revenue. Because now everything obviously the automation and human effort won't be the same. And one of the changes that we might have experienced was especially with, because we deal with more of small transactions, but multiple transactions. And one of the biggest challenges we've had is that due to data security, most of our customers have blocked our, or not intentionally, but maybe due to data security to protect their data, they've blocked most of our automated emails. And maybe it's one of the questions where I had when you're busy discussing how can we avoid such things where we've automated the system, but somewhere the customers IT security picks up our emails as a threat to their data. And it's one of the challenging thing. And also on how maybe it may be on, also in addition to that, of how can we solve a gap between the invoice going to the requester of the invoice to accounts payable. There's a huge gap there where most of the invoices are delayed in terms of we send an invoice to a certain maybe accounts department, or maybe not to accounts department, but send it to a normal department which does not relate to accounts, but that invoice somewhere doesn't reach the accounts payable. How can we eliminate that gap between the department and accounts payable, so that we can quicken the process to receive our revenue?
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Zui, for those two questions, right? And the first one was around the data security and the emails that then get blocked, right? Now, one of the reasons why emails end up getting blocked is because normally they would be coming from either email addresses that are flagged by the supplier, by the recipient's organization. And these could be things that are coming from mail addresses like MailChimp, those Salesforce kind of email addresses. Now, in this context, what we actually do for the emails that go out, we create an email with your domain, and that email is assigned to the bot the same way that we would assign the email address to a human being, such that when that email is being received, it does not necessarily come in as an automated email when email coming an unattended bot, because those are the ones that normally get blocked, mostly by recipient organizations from a security perspective. The second aspect might be the sheer volume of emails that are then generated through the process. So what we can build is a consolidation of all the communications that need to to one individual, to one organization. Instead of sending 10 different emails for those smaller transactions, we can consolidate all of them with monitoring by the bot. And then once we reach a certain threshold of transactions, we then send one consolidated email with the consolidated transaction there to manage the sheer volume of emails that you could potentially be sending there. I'm assuming those could be some of the reasons why they might get blocked, but obviously without detailed analysis, if we are able to do detailed analysis, we might find that there could be several other reasons. The second aspect to your question was around how we ensure that invoices that are reaching accounts payables get processed expeditiously, and they do reach accounts payables between the requester and the accounts payables. Now, again, this is one of the reasons why we've seen our clients that there would be an accounts payable mailbox, which is monitored by 5 different people, 10 different people, depending on how big the organization is. And because it's monitored by various people, some emails get missed in there. And because those emails get missed, then you then have that friction between the requester. The requester is saying, we did send the email, someone didn't look at it, someone didn't check it, and then it has to be resent, creating all that friction. Now, with the bot that monitors those kind of emails, the automation that we build will be the one that actually monitors, it cycles through the entire mailbox, checks for everything that is within there, checks if it has been processed, and if it has been processed, it is tagged as processed, not just as read. Because normally with emails, if you click on it, it changes to a red email. And if another person comes and checks in that mailbox and sees that it's been read, they're probably not going to attend to it. So we don't only tag it as read as what would normally happen within the mailbox, we actually tag it as processed or as in progress, depending on the different tags that we then create. That then makes sure that every invoice actually is monitored, is tracked through the entire processing cycle until it is paid and archived. I don't know if I've answered you.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yeah, you did answer, and I really appreciate that. It's something that we need to work on, and I think with Kopan we'll have to discuss this further after our webinar, and trying to implement such things.
Thank you, Zwi.
Thank you so much, Zwi, and thank you, Munya, for answering that question from Zwi, because I know he's always get frustrated on how he can effectively and efficiently process those payments. And I think to your point that invoicing, it plays a bigger part of our organizations on what we do. Because if you provide a service, at the end of the day, you need to be able to collect the monies that are due to the business. And what is the better way of doing it that as quick as you manage to issue those invoices and follow up. And I'll just also open to any colleagues on the line if they have any questions regarding this discussions or anything that it's pertaining to how we manage. Okay. Pertaining on how we manage our organizations. I'm not too sure whether it's my laptop or what. On how we manage our businesses to ensure that we are effective and we utilize the power of automation. And yeah, I just open to further discussions within the colleagues on the line. So are there any questions for Munya? If you don't have any questions now, or if you pick up some of the questions later, please do reach out to us. We will then redirect those questions to the individuals that will be able to answer those questions for you. However, we still have another 10-15 minutes that we can spare for individuals to ask further questions on how we can ensure that we utilize and solve challenges through automations. If there are any challenges, you've mentioned the legacy systems in one of your conversation. That could be some of the other things that challenges some of our individuals having to automate or to improve on the systems that they use in their organization. What is your take on that? It's like sometimes you might find people saying it's expensive to move into a new system, but is it a way that can we incorporate the legacy systems to the new ways of how we do business, because we know that you've said it in your first slide that the future is here. The future is here. So how do we then ensure that we are not left behind on how we utilize systems while we're waiting for
Sure.
questions from the
Thanks,
colleagues on the
Kopano.
line? Mm.
Yeah, sure. So with regards to legacy systems, the beauty of the trajectory that technology has taken of late, right, compared to how we used to implement technologies in the past. In the past, implementation of technology meant going to buy licenses for a particular system, developing a particular system, getting that implemented on your premises, on your servers, and that cycle would lock you into working with that particular system on, and then the beauty that technology has then transitioned now into, with the coming in of cloud technologies, the coming in of automation, is that now when you adapt a certain technology, you don't necessarily lock yourself into it, because it is not coming with high volumes, with higher cost. It is not coming with high effort in terms of implementation. So what then happens with legacy system, particularly in this case, we actually build the automation on top of that legacy system. If it is a system of record that is years and years of data, and you feel you don't have the right investment to move that legacy system into a newer system, we work with the legacy system and we build the technology, the automation technology on top of the legacy system, such that when you now want to integrate with any future technologies, the layer of automation that they've built with the one that then integrates the legacy system to the newer technologies, and then you can work within an ecosystem of the old and the new. So that's generally the approach that you take around managing the issue around investment and managing issues around legacy systems.
Thank you so much. I think that leads to this question that we see here from Jane. She's also asking about costs. Says, how much does it usually cost to implement such solutions as a percentage of accounts payable?
Yes, so the implementation cost, there are various tiers depending on the volume of invoices that you process, depending on the complexity of the invoices that you are processing. So you get certain transactions where it's easy transactions that you can easily process between 100 to 200 invoices a month. And then you get bigger corporates that process anything between 10,000 or so invoices a month. So it is a tiered pricing model, which is related to the complexity of the organization itself.
Mm-hmm.
What we typically do we also come in and help you with building the right business case that says, will the automation actually generate the relevant return on investment for the size and the complexity that you're dealing with? So it ranges from anything between a few thousand rands to anything between a few million rands. It's quite a wide range of pricing, and it's dependent on the profile of each organization to such an extent that I'm not able to spit out one price at this particular point in time, but I can guarantee you that the price is tiered in such a way that it makes it relevant to the organization and to the business case for that particular organization.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jane. I hope your question has been answered. Okay, your anonymous, your question will be answered by Unongeba, and regarding the recordings and the presentations, the referencing of the presentations. So Unongeba would engage with the attendees on that. Thank you so much. So thank you, Munya, for explaining how this thing works.
I think Zwivu has got another hand up. I don't know if it's a follow-on question.
Oh, thank you. It's a quick question. With regards to the master data of the customer details of the vendor or the vendor management, in terms of, let's say, for example, if we are automating everything, how effective or efficient will the master data be? Will it require more of manual intervention, or it can also include the master data of the customer's information? Considering that we're in the insurance industry, then there are a lot of customers, and I mean, data is important. So if you have incorrect data, then it also affect your revenue collection.
Yeah, there are various aspects to the master data question, right? The first one is around the creation of the master data. So in cases where there are legacy systems, your master data will reside in one or more of your systems of records. Depending on how accurate that master data is, what we can do is, as the bot is getting new information that is coming from the customers, we can get it to do a comparison with your master data tables. And where it gets exceptions, we can then trigger an action for master data cleanup, which, depending on the complexity and the rules as well, we can get the bot to do the cleanup. Or again, like I said, it's a co-pilot that works with a human being. We can then trigger an action to a human being to say, we are seeing a difference between the data that is coming from these documents that we've processed to the master data that is in the record of system. Mr. Human Being, here is the issue. Can we log a ticket? We get to log a ticket. We investigate the issue, and where it needs to be cleaned up, we then clean it up. So it can become a continuous journey of cleaning up the master data. However, I also need to be clear, in the automated layer, it still resides in your systems of records. So we don't keep that record, we keep it in the system of record. All we do is monitor, compare, and where we need to rectify, we rectify.
Thank you, Mr. Husvu.
Thank you for that question, Zee.
Thank you, Mr. Husvu. There's another question there from Sizwe. I don't know if you are able to see questions from your end.
Yeah, I can see it. It says, with all the load shedding and network issue, what are the possibilities of offline capabilities? Well, in terms of the online capabilities, it depends on how we do deployment, right? If the deployment is within your own infrastructure, we can do a cloud implementation where it resides in our cloud. We can do an implementation where it resides within your cloud. Or we can do an implementation where it resides together with your on-prem systems. So to the same extent that your current systems are subject to load shedding, if you've got load shedding contingencies like generators and alternative power sources that you use locally, we can then plug into those. So it's subject to the same sort of system operations that you do locally if we are working within the local environment. Obviously, if we are working through cloud, you may have latency and delays as a result of network, if the network goes down as a result of the different load shedding impacts. But again, there is a solution to that where we can deploy it within your own infrastructure and within your own environment. Then you simply power it using your own alternative powers that you power all the other systems that you work with.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Colleagues, I don't know if there's still further questions on this matter or any other matter that involves the automation of your payments, of your processes, because I don't think it's you only deal with automation of payments or account payments. So you overall could automate the systems that are utilized by the business, and also to assist
definitely
with the analysis of their business analysis, and also how they can optimize the entire value chain of the systems that it's used within the organization.
Definitely. Thanks, Kopano, for that, right? So in this topic, I focused specifically on accounts payables. But if I go back to the slides here, I probably should be able to talk to quite a number of other processes that we can automate within this journey. So the automation itself is based on all the processes that are best. Anything that a human being to do following a set of specific rules, that we can automate. Within the insurance industry, claims is one big process that we always automate. And then within finance, the entire procure to pay journey, finance reconciliation, bank statements reconciliation. So everything that involves heavy documentation, where you need to read documentation, everything that involves heavy involvement by human beings, rules-based processes are all processes that we can bring through into the automation journey. Other than the automation, because if you automate something that is inefficient, you're only going to make the inefficient process go faster. We also start by doing the necessary optimizations of that process. So we analyze the process end to end, optimize the process, and make sure that it is efficient before we actually take it through the automation to ensure that we are only speeding up something that works and something that is efficient.
Okay, that's understandable. That's understandable. Thank you so much, Tse, and thank you so much for your time. I don't see further questions from the colleagues on the line. I'll take it that there are no other questions, but if there are questions, please feel free to ask those questions and get clarity on how we can optimize our systems and how we can extract value out of these processes, and bearing in mind that this is the future, that if your competitors around are using these systems or finding a way of effectively and efficiently managing their processes, you might find yourself in trouble on how to keep up. It's very important that we learn and understand how things are done and be able to implement what we can in our systems, or maybe scale it if maybe the costs are the issue. To your point earlier on, that it depends on the analysis of once you have gone through and worked on what needs to be done within those systems, then you can provide solutions that are relevant to a particular business, and the business can then start scaling it and see how they can implement. But thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. I don't know if there are any last closing remarks from your end, and so that we don't take too much of your time. We know that you run a very busy organizations, and we appreciate you taking time to engage with us, and we value this time that you share with us. And I believe also it adds value to our colleagues on the line. As IISA, we have committed to ensure that we bring these relevant conversations to the industry, and also for them to take calculative risk and informed solutions and decisions on what they need to do for their business. So we bring in the information, we bring in the platforms, and it's for them to then engage further on what they can use out of these conversations. Your closing remarks, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kopano, and thank you to all the attendees for taking time to come and listen to this. And just in closing, I will give one example. At the recent AIE conference, I was talking to one of the executives from one of the insurance companies, and then he took me through one finger error that happened within their business, where an accounts payable admin was capturing invoices, and they made a currency error where instead of capturing in rands, they captured a payment in US dollars. That was processed, and as it was processed, it went through the entire process and the entire journey undetected. It was only detected when it reached their treasury department, but it had already been committed onto their systems of record, onto their ERP system. Now, that kind of an error might seem like a small error that might not happen, and it may not have happened to any of your organization. But in that case, if you look at that error, it cost the organization 2 million rands in foreign currency exchange rate fluctuations. Because from the time that they made the payment error to the time they actually got it resolved, the foreign currency had changed, the rates had gone up, and the number of departments that they had to get involved in trying to resolve that issue. The fraud department had to be involved, treasury had to be involved, finance was involved, CFO's office was involved, CEO's office was involved, and CEO had to go and explain to board as well why there was now a US dollar amount line item in their reporting. And you can see the extent that a simple error in accounts payable can cost a business. And this is what AI is here to prevent. This is what we are here to assist you with preventing. And with that, I'm saying, let's get started on this journey. Let's engage with us, engage with ISB Optimus, get you onto the journey, and we will make it quite seamless for you. And you will definitely reap the rewards that come out of the automation and the journey that we are taking you through. And thank you all for joining. And with that, that will be my closing remark. Thank you, Kopano, and thank you to IISA for continuously bringing us to have these conversations. And we will be happy to continue collaborating with yourselves and the industry as well. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. Thank you. Thank you and have a great day.
Have a great day. Thank you.